welcome to Flx Matters on a rather cold morning, I have to say. Today we have Ken from KW Autos in the studio with us, and we're going to be talking about an open evening, I should say, for the less mechanically minded, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. And obviously we'll be discussing stuff about motoring in general. So, hi Ken, how are you?
Good morning, I'm very well actually. Sun shining, can't be bad, cold winter morning.
Just cold, yeah, I'm not so good with the cold fingers and all. But anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get to Felixstowe?
Well, a friend of mine had a relative who was in a retirement home in Felixstowe. We used to come down and visit. I had a garage in Thetford at the time.
Oh, right, okay.
A small workshop. And we came down and I saw my premises, and I just happened to say if that ever came up, I'd like to open the place there. And 2 weeks later, it got a notice in their workshop for rent. So here I am.
Oh, brilliant. So how long have you been in the motor business then, or is this a lifetime?
Well, my father had connections with the motor trade and had his own business, and I worked for him, and then over the years just found my own way through the motor trade. Okay. Brought me to East Anglia in 1983.
Okay.
I did 27 years with the Ford dealer network, various different garages within the Ford dealer network, and then decided to venture out on my own, and that's me, really. So
big question, why Felixstowe? Is it?
I like the place.
Yeah.
I couldn't get a better position. Okay, it's winter and it's a bit breezy in the winter, but I look out straight across the beach.
Oh, lovely.
The views are fantastic. I mean, next year it's all happening. We've got a new pier.
Oh, indeed,
hopefully,
yes.
being commenced. So that will sort of be something worth seeing and see how that develops. But it's a beautiful area. There's old and new, young and old, and it all makes for a nice, tranquil environment.
Oh, brilliant. So is there a particular favourite part of Felixstowe you could bring to mind? Is there?
My fiancée and I have been walking around the marshes recently, trying to keep fit and lose a bit of weight. But
the Trimley marshes.
Yeah, it makes them lovely.
Place.
Yeah, and if you get the right weather on the right day, you can't get better scenery.
That is beautiful.
I mean, some of the old Felixstowe is really nice. So it's got something going for it.
Brilliant. So talked about in the intro an open evening. So tell us a little bit about what this is all about. So I mentioned less mechanically minded. So so please explain.
Well, the idea is, I mean, we're winter months fast approaching, and we've mentioned that a couple of times now. Yeah. It's for those who are new to motoring, first winter driving perhaps, or ladies that just want to know that little bit extra. Before they go on the school run in the morning, they come out, their vehicle's got a flat tyre. Just a few basic pointers in what to do and how to do it with a relative degree of safety. And the whole answer to that is if you're not confident to do it, don't do it, especially when you're dealing with a motor vehicle. But it's just some basic tips to try and get you through the winter months. And again, we look at the amount of rain we've had, and you need to make sure your tyres are in good condition. I mean, essential in adverse weather conditions.
So, I mean, from a perspective of tyres, I expect a lot of the people watching in general probably don't know the legal requirements for a tyre.
Well, yeah, it's 1.6 millimetres, which is about the width of a 2p piece. So when you think that's as much as keeps you in touch with the ground, and the average contact surface is about the size of a man's size 8 shoe. So that in four corners at 100 mile an hour, you've got to make sure you've got some good footwear. So it's the ideal is to just keep them in optimum condition, and it helps with your fuel economy. I mean, that's one of the things to say. Tyres at the right pressures with the right tread aid your fuel economy, and that's really a good issue at the moment. Fuel.
Yeah, indeed. So the evening itself, when is it? It's
on the 14th of November. It's at KW Autos, which is on the seafront.
Yep.
The idea is, I think it's going to be promoted between yourselves, Felixstowe TV and Felixstowe Radio.
Yep.
We're looking for approximately 30 people to come along. Yeah. And we'll divide them up into groups, and the idea is to promote the garage, essentially, and to just give some basic pointers in basic maintenance and what to look for on these winter mornings.
So when we talk about sort of the stuff you'll be doing, is it wipers, bulbs?
Well, tyres, as I've already mentioned, and treads, pressures, etc. Lighting, because these dark nights, early mornings or dark mornings, wipers. It's just the basics that you should really be able to check fairly quickly, fairly easily. And what to do if it's not right, you find something that's not quite right. I mean, changing the wheel on the side of the road is quite daunting. But it's just how to do it safely and using the right equipment.
So it'll be a hands-on sort of evening, will it?
Yes, there's a couple of us going to give the instruction, and we'll take questions, and it's sometimes, perhaps, as I say, with novice drivers, they've got their licence now, they're out and about, or ladies taking their children to school, they're doing it more and more now, trying to do that bit more, and it's just, rather than going into a panic, they'll have a little bit of confidence in, I know what to do there, that chap down the garage said. Yeah. So that's the idea anyway, and it's just, as I say, it's an awareness evening just to give them a taster of what they can do.
Okay.
And it keeps them within the legal requirements, because tyres is a legal requirement, lights, wipers, so it all keeps you within the law.
So it sounds like a very useful thing for not just your beginner driver, but people who just have been carrying on with a car because they're expensive. They do a lot for us, and just not really understanding these kind of things.
Yeah, it's something that we've probably all taken for granted, and the only time we think about it is when something goes wrong and you think, I wish I knew how to do that. So they hope, well, this is a bit preventative, so we're hoping that we can just give a few pointers that will take the sting out of it if something should go wrong.
Cool. So you mentioned KW Autos has been about in Felixstowe since
2008 in Felixstowe, February.
So is this the first time you've done an open evening, or is it?
It is on this site. I haven't done one under the KW Autos in my own right. I've worked for other companies, as I say. It was an initiative brought about probably some 20 years ago now.
Okay.
And it was considered, after a period of time, that it was not politically correct, because they were originally called ladies' evenings.
Oh, okay.
But that was felt that was a little bit incorrect, because there's just as many guys who don't know things about cars as there are ladies, which is a fair comment. But
indeed.
More and more the lady fulfills the role during the course of the day now with running children to school. There are an element of guys that do, but predominantly it's ladies that do. And there's many more people, young drivers on the road. Older drivers, people who are getting into their more senior years have decided now that they want to go out and take a lesson. I mean, we've only got to get on our roads these days. We can see how busy they are.
Oh, they are very busy, aren't they?
So, it was basically, originally these ideas were targeted at ladies. And to a degree, I still hold with that they are ladies' evenings. It's an opportunity for them to socialise as well. And just come down and have a bit of a social gathering, a bit of fun in the evening, and a bit of a giggle, really. But learn something out of it as well. That's a bit different.
Yeah. I mean, not every day you get to get into a garage and actually fiddle about with stuff. That's usually your guy.
I mean, it is perceived to be a predominantly male environment, but there's more and more ladies coming in. I have a young receptionist, Taylor, who joined us as a part-timer earlier in the year, started for us in October, and she's now going to find her way through college doing business administration.
That's brilliant.
The idea is that she'll end up probably running the office and taking all the receptionist bookings and everything else. So. There are more and more ladies in this right now.
So, just out of interest, do you know of many female mechanics? I mean,
I've had 3 work for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they all gave up for their children and everything else, but there's some very good ones. I've brought on some receptionists who have gone into service management, and some have become dealer principals. So there are the openings now, and some of the major motor industry federation people are ladies now. So there's more and more of them. It's not a male-dominated environment.
It's just that for me, maybe it's a stereotype, but practically every garage I've been into, there's not a woman in sight. So it's quite interesting that this is happening. The females are coming in. It's a bit like the software industry as well. This is again a very male-dominated thing.
And
it's a perception, though, isn't it?
I mean, there is still very much a male-dominated environment, and we have guys who phone up, and Taylor will answer the phone, and they say, "Can you get me somebody from the workshop?" and as a guy, we'll pick up the phone and say, "How can I help?" And they go, "We want to make a booking," and you think, well, that's just a bit silly, really.
That is very silly.
It is our male chauvinist bit, if you like, that we perceive that a lady wouldn't know what's going on within the garage environment. But there's far more knowledgeable ladies than there are men out there.
I know this.
Start debate now.
So you say you've got how many employees have you got in?
I've got 3 full-time and 2 part-time now. So and obviously myself. I tend to be a jack of all trades. Apparently I don't make coffee. My staff tell me I don't make coffee. But yeah, we do anything and everything. And 2 fully skilled guys, a couple of part-timers that come in and help us out. And Saturday boy, you must remember Dylan, he's our Saturday lad. And
right.
he's hoping to aspire to greater things. So early days for Dylan.
So he's learning on the job, really. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he does get to do some of the menial tasks, but we all have to start somewhere.
Oh, indeed.
But as I say, I have Taylor as receptionist. She's come on strong, and I'm sure she'll go far. It's
that's really good.
Very promising.
So we've been talking about motoring. As I said, it's an expensive hobby, a necessity.
Well, it's a necessity these days, isn't it? Especially being rural as we are.
Indeed. Yeah. So what are the I mean, you obviously see a lot of people come through your garage. So what are the things that are most grating on the guys you talk to? Is it fuel cost? Is it?
Well, fuel and taxation is always an issue, and we never seem to. I mean, dare I say it, domestic fueling is a bone of contention at the moment. And again, I agree. We always seem to see the increase, but never seem to benefit from the decrease.
No.
And we're now talking about changing in taxation or 2-tier taxation on motor vehicles. So, you pay for the more miles you do, and that's going to be difficult. And here, I think once the novelty of a car wears off, it's not like we used to drive for pleasure. Now, as you say, it's an essential part of our everyday life. We have to drive, and the costs seem to escalate. And we try to offer a reasonable service, or should we say a very good service, but for a reasonable price. And we become more and more involved in different aspects of the motor trade. We're now air conditioning, we're now just going mobile valeting. And we're offering additional services to what we started out to do because we have to appeal to a greater market. And it's the same as an owner of a vehicle. You're now having to consider various different things. Servicing is... The service intervals are getting wider because of modern technology, but then maintenance still costs. And there's, the oils that we're using today are far superior to what we ever used before. But then there's a cost involved in that. So what you gain on the straights, you lose on the curves, and it's much the same. It's history repeating itself, unfortunately.
So you go back to the taxation. So you're saying there's going to be 2-tier now?
Well, they're talking about a 2-tier. Whether it actually comes to fruition, which is, in some respects, for somebody who uses motorways all the time, would pay more than somebody who only drives around town or pops down the shops, once a week. But again, they're going to try and monitor it on usage rather than. So they're talking about. But then we've had these things in the past where they talk about, different taxation classes, and certain vehicles at the moment are tax exempt. They're free, and that's based on emissions. So there are some benefits to running a small, more economical car, and modern day vehicles are doing more and more miles per gallon. So whilst we're seeing more expensive fuel at the pumps, the vehicles are actually doing more miles per gallon. So I suppose, being cynical, the government have seen that and they can still draw that much, and as long as they break even, they're not too worried.
Like I say, I've got a Prius, and you think, oh, great, save lots of money, and I'll notice the difference completely. But by the time you take on, as you say, the cost of the fuel, you don't really pay. You don't really see that.
It was always a false economy. People used to say unleaded was cheaper at the pump than the old 4-star. But what they didn't take into consideration, that 4-star gave you more miles per gallon than unleaded. So when you actually worked out the savings, it was minimal. There was nothing to it. but it environmentally was a much friendlier fuel. And we're now seeing that everything we do environmentally has a cost attached to it, and so. Is it right or is it wrong? I mean, it gives us well-being for our future and our children and our grandchildren. Yeah. But at the moment, we are paying the price in what are very tight times. We're out of recession apparently.
Apparently, yes.
But I can assure you, we notice that people are not servicing their cars as often as they should or are recommended.
Yeah.
Because it's not, as they see it, an essential. You'll go to your car, you'll turn the key, it will start. You're happy.
It works.
Yeah. But we are doing far more breakdowns because of a lack of maintenance.
So the problem is not servicing means that people will let their cars wear out, break, and then you end up paying the cost one way or the other.
I mean, again, it's teeth are a very close subject to me at the moment, but you brush your teeth every day, so you sort of fend off the dentist and avoid going to the dentist. Yeah. If you look at that in the same terms as your motor vehicle, you actually pay for your maintenance. Your visit, if you like, is your service, because hopefully you find things and you're able to do something about it which prevents a major breakdown later on. So that's the terminology, if you like. There is a benefit to maintenance. It is a false economy not to do it. And again, we're talking about fuel. If you keep your vehicle running as sweet as possible, then it's more fuel efficient, and it saves money in the long run.
So with the newer cars, the newer technologies, all this kind of stuff, how has that affected the work you do? I mean, is it because old days you could probably take the whole engine apart and
well, to a degree you can still do that, but we have to move with modern technology. We're buying tooling all the time. Modern vehicle diagnostics are all computer based, and we have to buy equipment to able to analyse the information that's on those computers. So every few years we're buying equipment that will allow us to read the more up to date information. Computer programs we buy that enable us to translate the manufacturer's data into something that we can use and repair, rather than going to main dealers. Main dealers are quite expensive, and there's a lot of good independent garages like myself out there who charge a fraction of the cost of main dealer and can service and repair the vehicle just as well, and it doesn't affect your warranties. I
mean, when I open the engine space up, you see this black box almost now. Where you think, well, do they just pick this up and replace it with something? Is it that you're finding that there are bits you just cannot touch anymore because they're either overly complex or
as with everything, when it comes out and it's new, and the motor vehicle's been around for a long time now, but modern technology with the moving forward with cleaner emissions, electronic technology being applied to vehicles, some of it is very difficult. And it goes away to specialists, but like everything else, you see, you'll have one specialist, and they grow. There's pump specialists, there's module specialists. Even down to now, some vehicles on what they call a CAN bus system. If you change the radio, it may stop your vehicle running. Okay. Because it's all designed that it all speaks to each other and it tells it's there, and when they're all happy, the car will start and run perfectly. If you interfere with it, it can cause you running problems. So again, there are people who specialise in making sure that you can carry out some adjustments. And we have the equipment that we're able to read these onboard computers, but it all comes with a cost.
Oh yes, but I think what you're saying is the underlying technologies are still very similar.
The basics are you need fuel, air, and electricity. And once you've got those, the basic engine is the same. It's the equipment around it that makes it run.
All the add-ons.
Yes, all the add-ons now, where the technology is.
So have you had any bizarre requests in your time? I'm just interested because you've obviously been in the business a long time. So
well, you find customers come in and ask the strangest questions. We had somebody come in and they'd owned a vehicle for a period of time, 3 years I think it was, and they came in and asked if we could show them how to switch the radio on. And we thought, well, that's a bit bizarre. But as they went on to explain, they were then car sharing, and whilst they never liked the radio on as they were travelling, they'd never had a cause for switching the radio on. but the person they were going to car share with did like music, so they thought it would be courteous to switch the radio on. So yeah, it's bizarre. But I mean, again, you know, it's fair to say it was a lady of quite senior years at that point, and as she said, when she started driving, there were no radios in cars. And it just shows again how technology's moved on.
Moves on, yeah, indeed.
But yeah, there's been some strange ones, but there's so much equipment on modern vehicles, and you do find that people tend to bring the car in and they'll say, we don't understand what this is. Yeah. But that is probably the most bizarre one, is how do we switch the radio on?
So do people come in with sort of standard issues then, other than obviously my car does not work, fix it?
Well, yeah, I mean the standard thing is, you know, bulbs out again, because, you know, lying to legal equipment or legal requirement, should I say? Yeah. And some of the vehicles that we drive these days, to change a bulb is a challenge in itself.
Yes, I know from personal pain.
And you know, I think when we were talking earlier, I mentioned that, you know, in France, for argument's sake, it's a legal requirement to change, you know, carry a bulb set. So in order, if you have a bulb out, you can change it at the side of the road. But on some of the vehicles, this day and age, it's very difficult. You have to partially dismantle the car in order to fit a bulb, which sounds very extreme. But it's bulbs, wipers, levels checks, and again, I think you know, we do what we call a health service. We'll gladly check anybody's vehicle for them, but it's because there is so much nowadays. People are uncertain as to what to do, and there's so many different specs. Tyre pressures vary, and you can't go anywhere now. Every garage, there used to be a garage on every street corner, and they had tyre pressure charts that you could go up to, and your car would be on there, and you just copied it. Whereas now, you have to pay 20p, I think, to get your air. There's no tyre chart, or very few. So, you know, trying to find the correct information. So it's probably easier to just come along to a small garage and go, could you check my tyres? And it's costless, so it's not a problem.
Fantastic. So, what is the future for KW Autos then?
Well, what is the future? Well, the staff for the future, if I'm honest. I've got some very good staff. They're very competent, very capable. As I say, we're just putting we have just put a mobile valeting unit on the road, and we're waiting for that to take off. Okay. We are now running an air conditioning unit, which you know, we can now fully service air conditioned vehicle, and again, more and more vehicles now have air conditioning as standard. Yep. And we're licensed because it all has to be done through the appropriate channels. Yes. Yeah. We have to make sure that everything's disposed of correctly, environmentally friendly. So, yeah, the future is we are going to get busier, I would like to think, as people become more and more comfortable with their income. I mean, it's very difficult times, and Christmas just around the corner.
Another big expense, yes.
Yeah, everyone's watching every penny. So the future for KW Autos is we are going out into other fields to try and encourage business. As I say, mobile valeting unit, air conditioning. We do servicing MOTs, any vehicle repairs as it is. For the moment, I think we have to become masters at what we do, and then once we've done that, we'll look again and see what we've got and how the market lies.
So if anyone wants to, well, obviously we must mention again the open evening. If you're interested, it's on the 14th of November, and it starts at 7 p.m. at KW Autos on the seafront. So how do people get in contact with you?
Well, they can either email us on info@kw-autos.co.uk. Phone us on 01394 284 886, or go on our website, which is www.kw-autos.co.uk, or Flx TV or radio, and they will have the details.
Yep. So, if you fancy ringing here also, then give us a ring and we should be able to give you the details. Right. Thanks, Ken, for coming in today. It's been a pleasure to speak to you about all the world of motoring, as it were.
Yeah, and well, as I say, any viewers that want to just pop in and see us and have a check over, even without the evening, they're more than welcome to pop in and do so.
Brilliant. Well, this has been Flx Matters. Hope you have a wonderful day. As Ken said, it's sunny, so hopefully it will be a lovely day. We will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.